got great stuff.
We met you when you were shopping for shoes.
Good, more people are coming. Oh, good, Atara. You got it.
Okay,
Ready?
So I didn't really prepare anything. I forgot that it's really.
You don't need
Want to
to.
thank everybody for coming. Please do not sit down without food. So you need to make sure you have food by your seat.
Not allowed to sit down
And
without food.
thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And here we
So
go.
thank you to the Eisenbergs. Thank you for Shushi Beckhoff for coming all the way from Passaic. And to David Rosenthal, who really was the one, and his mother, who really was the one who organized this. And
Jacoby.
it's really, and
Rabbi
what was
Jacoby
that?
also.
And Rabbi Jacoby. I haven't met him yet,
His wife.
but
Yes.
you're his wife?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, thank you so much. And the Manalapan Jewish Connection is really doing some really neat things. A lot of speakers, a lot of cool looking things, it seems like to me, that are coming in. So my name is Atara Weisberger. I'm the owner of Tribe Health and Fitness Coaching. And I've been working with women in health and fitness for about 20 years. It's really like my second career. My first career was in a totally different field, in environmental science. But I have always been an athlete, and I've always been interested in nutrition, and environmental science and nutrition have a lot of similarities. They're just the same thing in a different picture. Environmental health is global, right? And this is more kind of individual, but it's all in the area of overall wellness. And I'm very interested in I'm not somebody, when I work with clients, who prescribes people to a certain diet or a certain exercise pattern. I'm interested in helping women to figure out what works for them in their lives. So each plan is unique. Each situation is different, and everybody comes in with their own habits, their own backgrounds, their own expectations. And my approach has always been, it's never one size fits all. It's always like each person has their own health journey and their whatever that they bring to the table. And my interest is always to work with each individual person on their health journey. I wanted to keep this, there's a lot of philosophical stuff we could cover, from the Jewish perspective, what the Jewish sources say about health and nutrition, and we'll touch on that a little bit, but then there's also, I'll do a tiny bit of that, but really I wanted this to be very practical and very hands-on. So the first thing that we're going to start with is I'm going to get a meal cooking for you. What we're going to do is we're going to make 4 different, out of the same basic ingredients, things that you would have in your freezer, any grocery store would carry, the corner store would carry. We're going to create the basis for 4 different meals that can actually be more than that. It's like having a black skirt and a couple shirts and some necklaces, and out of that you can make like 10 different outfits. That's basically what we're going to do with the food here, is we're going to have some foundation foods, and then out of that, as the week goes on, you can dress them up, you can change them, you can tweak them, you can make them exciting, you can not make them exciting, whatever works for your schedule and how you cook. So before I start talking anymore, I'm going to get the slowest piece going, which is just going to get the rice cooking. So I use a rice cooker because it's like I can put it in and forget about it. Otherwise, I feel like I have to monitor it. And this rice cooker, like if you cook things in here, I think this thing is maybe $25. It's like not a big financial investment. So I'm just adding, really simple, I'm adding 2 cups of brown rice. This is long grain brown rice. My kids just like it better, so that's what I make. And I usually use sea salt, but you can also use kosher salt. I use sea salt just because it's got micronutrients in it that are good for you. You can also use, if you want to get really fancy, you can use pink Himalayan sea salt or mountain salt. So I'm just adding a little bit of salt to it. And then I'm going to add 3.5 cups of water. So that is right about what we have. A little less. So if you want, you can add a drop of oil. I usually add like a tablespoon or 2 of oil to it. It just gives it like a buttery flavor once it's done cooking, which I really like. And if you want, you can spice it up a little bit. You can shake in some garlic powder, some onion powder. You can shake in, I like to shake in a little bit of black pepper because I like things spicy. And then all you do is you hit the button and it's going to cook. That's it. And then you leave it alone until it's done. It'll click itself off and you don't have to worry about it. So we're going to get that started right here. Okay, so I also want to thank you guys for coming today. I know that if you weren't here, you'd be running the New York Marathon today. So I really appreciate you taking the day off and coming here, which is really great. So there's an interesting thing that I found is like I no longer can grocery shop in my own community. because a weird thing happens. So I walk in and people either scatter for me in the grocery store, or they, or they come up and they're like, this stuff in my cart, this isn't for me, this is for my son's birthday party. I would never eat this. I don't say a word. I just walk in to do my shopping. And it's like, that bamba, I don't ever do that. So I've learned that I can't shop in my own community anymore because I make everybody uncomfortable. So now I drive 20 minutes, that's just an aside, but I drive 20 minutes to do my grocery shopping in Teaneck instead of doing it in Passaic. Just figured that would be easier. One of the things that people do stop and ask, of course, is like they'll ask me for tips, or they'll ask me for some suggestions for how they can eat healthier, what they can do with the food. So we're going to go through a couple of points. If you're a note taker, I'm going to add to this. If you like to write things down, feel free to write things down. So I want to share what I consider to be like the top 5 when you're busy, right? This is about eating healthy and exercising when you're busy, and what we call life in the fast lane, right? So what we're starting to do today is to cook simple foods in bulk, and then we're going to dress them up later. So right after we go through this, we'll finish up the cooking demo part. But for example, let's say that you have chicken breast at home, grilled chicken breast. So that can be turned into a stir fry. It can be turned into a wrap. It can be turned into, as long as you have kind of the basics that are ready. If you have grilled salmon that you made, that's really easy. You can turn that grilled salmon into, you can take brown rice and stir fry some egg into it, and then chop up little pieces of the cooked salmon into it. And then you've got a salmon, basically like a healthy fried rice that you would get in like the Chinese food store, but this is like brown rice and egg and salmon. So what we're going to do today is that first one, which is just cooking these simple foods in bulk and dressing them up. And then the second thing is to make sure that you have in your house low or no prep foods in stock. So any suggestions on that throughout? Healthy, no or low cook foods that you can have around that'll make a quick meal. Any thoughts?
Salads.
What was that?
Well, salads are cooked, but
Salads, you mean having vegetables prepped and ready for
and
sure?
eggs boiled.
Eggs boiled.
I was going to say the eggs boiled.
What else is a great grab and go healthy food that you can have in
Canned
stock?
salmon.
Tuna, canned salmon, awesome. Those can be turned into
Lox.
salmon patties and tuna patties also.
Lox.
Lox. Trader Joe's has a great black pepper lox, but you don't like the texture of lox, which I don't really. It almost has like a cooked feel about it, so that's a great food to have on hand. What else? What else are good
I have
foods?
organic falafel, which is in my freezer.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Organic
Falafel's
falafel.
great. Full of protein, full of fiber. Excellent. What else is good? What else are other quick foods that you have in your house?
Oh, the turkey breast with no nitrates.
Oh, yeah, Empire now has
Empire has
an all-natural line of cold cuts, no
No
nitrates in
nitrates.
them, called Empire Naturals.
Yes.
Right, exactly. So that's really good. You can get them at any kosher store now.
Costco has
And
Yeah,
even
Costco
probably
has
some of
them,
the
yes,
shop
yeah.
rates carry
Costco,
them,
yeah.
is my guess. So if you're like, I love deli, but I haven't served it in years, and I haven't eaten it in years because I know too much about it, but now I can and it's great. You can cut it into salads, and then, you can make it into wraps, and so that's a good alternative.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It's like a little bit of a diversion
Yeah.
about the nitrates.
Yeah.
So I heard the nitrates are not so bad. I heard we were being careful, and then I heard that the whole thing's overrated. It's really the amount that, because of the regulation, the amount of nitrates that are actually in the deli is not as bad as they're making it out to be.
So
What do you think?
So it could. I like to think of everybody's body has a threshold. Your body can metabolize a certain amount of additives that are not natural. We breathe the air, there's stuff in the air. We drink the water, there's stuff in the water. So the way I like to look at it is you don't know where your threshold is, and everybody's body can metabolize various amounts of chemicals. Some people are more sensitive than other people. So if there's something that's easy to avoid, and you can, it's something you may want to think about. If it's something that you have no choice, if you've got a kid who's a super picky eater, right? No, none of us have any of those, right? So if you've got a kid who's a super picky eater and they won't eat protein except for that one thing, you may make the choice that that's something that you want to do. but it really comes down to balancing what you're intaking and what your body can process. So, and it's also like listening to yourself. Like some people are more sensitive to chemicals than others, and if we kind of tune in, you can kind of figure out how your body reacts to it. So if you just had nitrates once in a while and that was the only chemical that you were exposed to, I would say you're right, your body can metabolize it. But if it's added to a general diet that's got a lot of additives to it, you don't want it to be that thing that kind of pushes you over if there's an easy alternative, or if there's a better alternative that doesn't cost any more money and it's just as accessible. They're next to each other in the grocery store. You know what I mean?
It's only the turkey, right? They don't have.
No, they have all kinds. They have salami and they have turkey and they have a whole line
They
of
have
stuff
hot dogs
now.
that have nice
And they're
flavors.
literally next to each other
Yeah,
in the
and
supermarket.
friends.
So, it comes down to balance. I'm very into like not being radical about things. You have to figure out what works for you. But if you have a simple choice that's no more expensive and just as accessible,
Full line.
you might as well err on the side of caution, So that's kind of my take on that. Okay, so a couple other things to have in stock, and these are like obvious, but they can be turned into easy meals. Rice cakes, peanut butter, and banana. Right? I often will do, like this morning, what was my breakfast on the run this morning? I took a hard-boiled egg, I sliced it, I put it on a rice cake, and I put cheese on it and popped it in the microwave and melted the cheese over the egg and the rice cake. And that's like a very common to-go meal for me when I'm up early and doing whatever I'm doing, and then I'm in transit to somewhere else, right? So that's another thing to have.
Doesn't the rice cake get all mushy?
Not at all.
Oh.
Not at all. I don't know why.
Oh, all right.
But it doesn't.
Okay, then
I use the Lundberg Farm rice cakes, and they're like
Oh.
super thick, so maybe that's why they don't get soggy. I don't
Can I ask
know.
a quick question? Sir?
Sure. Yeah.
Is there a reason you pick rice cakes over whole grain bread or?
I just don't eat gluten, but nothing wrong. No, you could totally do a high quality bread for sure. No reason at all. Ezekiel bread's a great bread. Sprouted grain breads are high in protein. They're easier to digest for most people. No reason at all. That's just my personal preference. So that's all. Did someone else have a question? No? Okay. A couple other things. So bananas, nut butters, nuts.
No.
Nuts are a great go-to, and Trader Joe's, I know I sound like a commercial, believe me, I don't have stock in Trader Joe's, but I should. But they have, it's so nice because they have all these individual packs of
On the go.
on-the-go, exactly, these on-the-go nut and fruit mixes and plain nut mixes, and if you're a chocolate person, some of them have chocolate bits in them, and, you can just grab one and throw them in your purse. So, if you're somebody who's on the run, or if you're working, or if, we've got a lot of kind of time pressure, keep them in your car, keep them in your purse so that you can grab them. Because what happens when you don't eat at all during the day?
Cookies.
Grab cookies.
You eat a lot afterwards.
You get home, what happens at 4 o'clock? Either you bite someone's head off, right? You grab whatever's in front of you because you're starving, which is a normal thing to do, right? If you're hungry, you need to eat. But it's hard to make good choices when you're starving because you just need to get something down already, So it's like trying to avoid getting to that place where you're so starving. And so it's like keep stuff in your purse, keep stuff in your car, keep stuff in your office. That have a little drawer of healthy snacks so that you have those go-tos if you miss a meal. Canned beans are great for high protein, fiber. I have a funny story with, I did another workshop like this, and there were some women there who had not really seen beans in a can before. It was a very Hasidic community, and I was trying to make a dish with beans out of canned beans, and one of them walked over and said, "What's this?" And I said, "They're beans. Why are they in a can?" And I said, "Because it's easy and it's quick and it's cheap." Oh. And then she comes over and looks and she's like, "Oh." It was just very funny. So that's
All
what
the
she was
Jewish brands
thinking.
are making it now.
What was that?
All the Jewish brands are making all the canned beans now.
Right. And I think that was it because they didn't have Heimische brands for. So it was very funny. It was just, she was very cute. Oh, it dawned on her, I see. So So that's great. Those can be blended into a hummus. If you don't want to buy hummus in the grocery store, you add a little lemon juice and olive oil and put it in a tiny little blender and you've got hummus. So you can do that, or you can just add them plain. I have also at home, Imagine is the name of a brand. Imagine makes like organic vegetable broth and chicken broth that can be added to soups, it can be added to stews, it can be just a basis. You can take that and add some of the vegetables into it. So you just have a basis for a healthy broth already. They also make kosher chicken broth. Imagine makes a kosher chicken broth too that's actually free range. So that's kind of a nice thing. So I have that. And then spiralized veggies. Anyone worked with those before? Those are so fun.
I tried, it did not work.
You tried to spiralize them?
Yes.
Yeah,
I couldn't hook them right. I spiralized it and I like got so stuck.
Oh,
With a
yeah.
lot of, like,
So most grocery stores now, I think, sell them spiralized already, and they can be substitute for spaghetti. They can be, I made a stir fry with them the other day. I did onions and put in the spiralized vegetables, and then you can add whatever protein works for you. If you're a vegetarian, you can add beans or lentils. Yeah.
how do you cook them?
They cook really fast because they're so thin. I always saute them, but you can bake them. You can, any way that you would like, the only thing I think you can't do unless somebody tried this, I don't think you can boil them. Maybe, I mean, you probably could, but yeah, I think that they would kind of turn into a mush. But you could bake them, you can stir fry them, those all work. So that's a good thing to have. And frozen vegetables are also another good thing. So they're just as healthy. They flash freeze things right from the field, so they lose basically no nutrients. So if you're in a rush, frozen vegetables are just like one tiny step shy nutrient-wise from fresh vegetables. So those are some low or no prep foods that you can keep in stock. And then the third is, we all like to go out to dinner. If weight loss or changing your body composition is something that's on your radar screen, like the reality is everyone eats out different amounts, but most of us at some point rely on takeout, and we go to restaurants also. So if you're trying to make conscious choices, one thing to do is to look at the menu. You can even, if you go to a sit-down restaurant, you can always ask the server, what are your healthier options or whatever. But is to know the places that you typically get takeout from, or a place that you would be likely to go out to dinner if you're trying to make better food choices, is to just kind of be aware there isn't even fast food, there isn't a restaurant in the world now that doesn't offer healthier choices. So it's just kind of thinking through, okay, I know my kids want to go to the pizza shop, right? So what is there for me to eat at the pizza shop if I don't want to eat pizza and french fries? What are my choices? And if you don't see something that you want, is to, it could be that other people will want a healthier choice, and you can talk to somebody who's there about, hey, is it possible for you to offer grilled fish, or is it possible for you to offer, some other healthier alternative or whatever. But I find that it's not that you don't have to do takeout, and it's not that you don't have to go out to, you can have to avoid going out to dinner. It's just good to know what your choices are. And then number 4 is one that I do every single week. I double cook for Shabbat. Whatever I'm making, I double cook. And I make very simple foods. I'm busy like you guys are. I make simple foods that I use spices liberally, and then I can take them and make them into whatever I want to make them into afterwards. But, I try and keep it simple. And I plan my Shabbos menus for things that I know my family will eat during the week. So even if we have guests, I don't make things that I think no one will eat as leftovers. I make things that I know that I can turn into something else, or that I know my family will eat, even if they're left just kind of as is. So real simple food. So that's been a very helpful trick. And then instead of calling them leftovers, I started to call them previously home cooked foods. Yeah.
And which vegetables do you find that you can prep and freeze?
That's a good question. Most of them, probably, I would say anything that's kind of like a more gesund vegetable. For sure, all the root vegetables freeze beautifully. Carrots, parsnip, celery so-so, peppers so-so, mushrooms freeze fine. The higher the water content, usually the worse they freeze, because it changes, it goes through that freezing and then thawing process. So if you've ever seen fruits that are in the back of the fridge when it's too cold, and then you take them out and they've like completely died, once they thaw. So the higher the water content, the less well they freeze. So the root vegetables, like the more sturdy vegetables, are going to be the ones that freeze
Like where
well.
was zucchini fall in that?
Well, no, we have,
The
but
ones that
I prepare all my vegetables that I grill on Friday. I prepare it already on Wednesday. My zucchinis I prepare the
And then you
No, but I
freeze
would
them?
want to do it for 2 weeks. Like that's like it's very time. I love making roasted
So
vegetables. on
you
Shabbos,
could-
but that's the time.
You could
consuming,
keep
like,
them in the fridge with a Ziploc bag.
not till the following Shabbos.
I
I would love
would.
to freeze them.
I think you could, and if they're a little bit moist, you take
I
a
don't
paper
care.
towel and you dry them. It works. It really works. I
So which
prepare my
vegetables?
vegetables: beets, zucchini,
Beets are great. They'll
butternut
stay forever.
squash,
Also, will stay.
yams. Sweet potatoes.
Those are
I
all the
always do.
gesundta vegetables.
Yeah, I always do
right.
that. I can't. I don't eat a lot of pepper,
Right.
so I don't do the peppers, but I do all those other ones, and they stay great. They really stay well. It's machaya. And then also once you grill them on Friday, I can keep them until Thursday. I still put them in my salads on Thursday if I don't need them up. They're great fillers.
Awesome. Yeah, those are those more solid vegetables. Exactly what you're talking about, the butternut squash and the root vegetables, and those are the ones that, and beets are
Beets
also a
and
root
sweet
vegetable,
potato.
so those are the ones that really freeze. I find they freeze the best. But that was good. That's a good question, because that's what we're gonna look at today is like once you're standing there cutting,
Right.
what can you do with that time, while you're standing there and cutting. And then the last one is learn to love previously home cooked foods, aka leftovers, right? Oh, I can smell the rice now. So that's where you can take, like I did a post this week actually on Facebook where I had 15 minutes to eat lunch and I opened my fridge and I was like, what's in my fridge? So I always have a cooked grain and I always have a protein ready, and I usually have some kind of that's what we're going to kind of prep here today. I had brown rice. It was like a combination brown wild rice. There was some avocado on the counter. I had hard-boiled eggs, which I always have handy because they're just such a quick protein. And then I chopped up some carrots. So I took the rice and I chopped up the egg into it. I chopped the avocado. I chopped the carrot into it. I put a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, and salt and pepper. And I had this brown rice bowl basically that was super filling, kept me for hours. It had protein, it had good fat, it had carbs. And it was just because I opened my fridge and threw some stuff together. So getting used to playing with what's in, and that often happens to me that, as long as I have the basics in my fridge, I can throw together a meal. And basics in your pantry. Right, or basics on your counter like the avocado, and I had the hard-boiled egg, and if I had to stand there and wait 20 minutes for the hard-boiled egg to cook, but on Sunday I made sure that I had all those prepped. So, and then you can take whatever you have and kind of get creative about it. And if you ever need suggestions, you can always, my card's on the table, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to give you suggestions. And you can say, I have this, 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 and this. My daughter calls me from Israel. Ima, I have this, 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 and this in my fridge. What am I making tonight? And I'm like, oh, well, you can do this and this with that and then add this to that. And she's like, perfect, done. And it'll take her 15 minutes with what she's got in her fridge, right? So, so those are the kind of my 5 shortcuts in terms of trying to figure out how to get the most out of the time that you do spend in the kitchen. Okay, now for the fun part. Okay, so we're gonna make 4 different things. So the rice is already cooking. That's gonna be for a brown rice salad. So we're gonna cut the vegetables with a brown rice salad in mind, but I'm also going to have in mind that I'm gonna make a frittata for breakfast in the morning, and I'm gonna make 4, yeah, please. I'm gonna make enough so that I can have a quarter each morning. So I'm gonna make it once while I'm standing in the kitchen, and then I've got 4 segments that I can just grab and microwave each morning before I leave for work. And then we're also I'm going to show you the most embarrassingly easy slow cooker chicken recipe. There are 3 ingredients. It takes 7 hours, but it's 3 ingredients: chicken, salt, pepper. No liquid, slow cooker, crock pot, whatever you call it. Leave it for 7 hours. It comes back, and you come back and you open the lid and you have roasted chicken that's literally falling off the bone with those 3 ingredients. So I took 2 seconds to make the brown rice. I used 2 cups. It'll make enough for the week. I'm gonna put the chicken in the slow cooker. I'm gonna use the 3 ingredients. It's gonna be a 3-second procedure. I'm gonna turn the crock pot on. That's gonna sit for 7 hours. And then we're gonna get to work on our veggie prep for the rice salad, the frittata, and your salads for the week. Okay? Yeah.
Just a quickie, I did read your chicken recipe, it's very interesting, but it has the skin on it, which bothers me. That's not unhealthy?
In what way?
Well, you shouldn't eat it, first of all, right?
So it depends. It depends on the kind of diet that is good for your body. So fat is not the enemy that it was once believed to be.
Animal fat? Okay, it's animal fat,
No.
isn't it? Oh, it's not.
It is animal fat, of course it's animal
Yeah.
fat. But what I would tell you to do is you need a little bit of fat in there because we're not adding oil to it and we're not adding anything to it. So you need the skin on because it's going to dry out otherwise, and you want it to get kind of that crispy outside but like not dry on the inside, which is why I would tell you to only do this recipe with dark meat. Because you can do it with white meat, but then you do have to add a little bit of oil because it's just drier.
Why don't you just put the rice inside the crock pot? And
because then I
vegetables?
can't use the rice for something else.
Oh, okay.
Like I want separate things that can be maximally versatile. Meaning like if I don't want to be fleishik, I don't want to put the rice in there because if I want to put cheese on my rice or if I want to like eat it with a cheese omelet or if I want, so I want to keep the parv stuff parv, the fleishik stuff fleishik, and then I can always just put them together on a plate and put them in the microwave if I need to. Yeah.
Can you do this? I'm not so much with the chicken with on the bone. Can
Okay.
you do this as a chicken breast and then add, if you have to, a little bit of oil or whatever?
So
to do
it's too
this?
much cooking time for chicken breast. 7 hours is a long time. You could do it for less if you're home.
Yeah, well, but if you're doing it, you start it in the morning and you let it go 4 or 5 in the afternoon,
I'm afraid that the chicken breast would
Will
like
dry
dry
out.
out.
What do you think?
What about boneless
cooking time
thighs?
for chicken breast? Like how, never tried
It depends on how thick it is. Like if it's the regular where they come out kind of thick, it's not pounded and it's not sliced.
not the thin ones.
Not, yeah, I would say like if it's on low, max 2 hours, like max. I just don't think it'll be so. I mean, you can try it. You could do,
like,
you
right,
know.
unless maybe you put like other things with it, like rice or something with that.
To put it in with it, you mean?
Yeah.
But then you need liquid. And then it's like a stew.
Okay.
So I was just trying to get like the roasting where you can, it's like the roasted effect, but you can just leave it. Instead of standing there watching the chicken, this is just a recipe that's just meant to like throw it in and forget about it, go to work. Or throw it in and go do your errands.
Does
or
it
throw
still
it in.
resemble like a chicken, like roast red
Yeah.
meats? Because like I love crock pot meals, but I always add like a little broth inside.
Right.
But I come home, it's more of like a stew, and
Right.
the kids don't like it's falling off. It doesn't look like chicken. It doesn't
Right.
taste like it's more like a chillin'.
So
chicken.
they'll love this then.
Okay.
If they don't like that, they'll
right.
love
I
this.
love it, but
Right.
I'll try it.
Right, so you'll see, but I think the dark meat on the bone with the skin, and then what I was gonna say is that just take the skin off.
Before eating it, but
Before
it's okay.
eating,
It has
I
a
think-
cholesterol problem, that's why I was asking you about
Yeah.
that. So it's okay if you cook in it and it won't, it's not as bad or?
I mean, you should speak to your doctor or
No, that's
local
why I was asking.
nutritionist, but like really, from the cholesterol perspective, you know, the medical community is focusing a lot more on carbohydrate intake as an effect on cholesterol than fat. Just because of the, you know, it's that's worth a conversation. It's like worth doing a little research just so you know, you don't. Women over 40 in particular, fat's very important in your diet. It's very important from a hormonal perspective. It's very important from a skin perspective. It's very important from a weight management perspective. So fat is no longer the demon that it was once believed to be. Carbohydrates are more of an issue.
I just want to say something I read this week. I don't know if it was in the Bean or the Mishpacha. It was very cute. Basically, what Atara was saying, they said, make your refrigerator be your pantry. Instead of your pantry, where you have all your dry goods as your pantry to go to for things,
What does that mean?
make your refrigerator as
Yeah.
your pantry. Like what you're saying, have all that
Have everything
stuff.
accessible.
Have
You
everything
just,
accessible. And that was a very cute thing that said, don't let your pantry where your dry goods are your go-to place.
That's great.
Let your fridge be your go-to place as
That's
your
awesome.
pantry.
That's awesome.
Exactly like what you're doing.
I love it. Thank you for the gloves, by the way, because then I can just take them off. Okay, so the chicken is super easy.
I have one
Right
more
there.
question about
Yeah.
chicken. It's
Okay,
not
you
a
can take
single
mine.
layer. That's fine.
It's supposed to be a single layer. Yeah.
You can't really put enough
Atara, we need
But I like,
here, take
I
mine.
put them as
No, no,
two
it's fine.
layers, so
I'll-
I
I
get
kind
it.
of give them as much airspace as I can, but I
Take
think
it.
later.
Sure, take it.
The original recipe calls for one.
Okay, but it still gives that same like roasted feel.
So the one that where the actual chicken's like really making the most contact, it might not be totally brown,
Right, okay.
but it'll still not be soggy. It won't have that, not soggy, that's not what you say about chicken, what do you say? Like that mushy, like boiled chicken feel, you know?
And somebody was asking about the chicken cutlets, Atara. I told you what I did this week. All the vegetables that I prepared for my frittata, I also prepared for the.
Oh, I don't know, how does it
Bottom.
work?
Maybe I'll put some water.
I don't ever
You
use
put
these
water down,
bags,
yeah. Otherwise, it's gonna burn.
Yeah,
It's
we
gonna
got
stick.
more.
Yeah,
No,
get
that's
some more.
Oh, you need more?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know.
Atara, all the vegetables that I prepared this week for my egg, I also prepared my neighbor chicken. You can tell them that if she doesn't want to use a hot pot, she can prepare the same time in the morning she make her frittata, she can make her cutlet with that, with all those same vegetables.
Explain.
Sorry, what was that?
That's okay.
What's the one that organized it? What's his name?
This is Rosenthal.
This is Rosenthal.
I don't know if they
I'll
have
tell you something. Yeah, you need it, otherwise it's gonna stick.
Might not go over perfectly.
That's okay.
I'm gonna do this week.
So great. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the chicken, I'm gonna lay it in here. So I can get a single layer for sure of 3. And then I'm just going to, I have to handle that one. Oh, if you can just sprinkle salt and pepper on here, just across those, and then I'll add the last one. Oh, this is open on the wide side. Like be pretty generous about it, because you want it to have some flavor. You're welcome to add any other spices that you like to it.
That's a lot of pepper.
Yeah, we like things spicy. And then I'll do the final layer and we'll do the same.
Is that okay?
thing to
Put
this
some
one.
garlic
Yeah,
powder.
that's great.
I'm changing it up.
She's gonna make it a little garlicky.
Yeah, everything in my life is
We like that.
You're just using chicken legs.
Yeah,
And I would already have Cuban out and.
Yeah, no, that, and you can, and then you could.
Well, Trader Joe's makes great pies.
What was that?
Spices.
Totally controlled salt. Totally controlled salt. You can do it without salt. I mean, kosher meat is salted already.
I know that,
You
right,
know?
so, right.
So you don't even need to add salt.
Right,
And that was just last thing. I'm good quality. They're not even.
Yeah.
But like,
Yes, yes, my sister-in-law.
Yeah, and it was very specific cheese, you have to like it.
and then you're gonna turn it on low.
Oh, you okay? Yeah, I'm good.
Is there a cold?
Yes,
You don't like doing it, you have to change it to fashion. You have to change it. It's not helped out.
I'm guilty now having my dessert.
Do you want paprika?
Healthy, I'll consider. Is this your supper?
Yes. Do you want paprika?
Okay, so the 3 things that we're gonna prepare for all at once, we're gonna do the veggies for the frittata, we're gonna do the veggies for the rice salad, and then we're gonna do veggies that you'll have for the week for whatever you need, whether it's making a salad or it's making a stir fry or it's rolling them into a wrap, whatever it is that you're gonna do, okay? So,
Want gloves like that?
no, not for this, just for the chicken. Yeah, that's done. So she's gonna put that on low in the kitchen. And that's gonna cook.
What kind of rice do you use?
I use, yeah, long grain. Yeah, this is the rice that I use. I buy a lot of their products. Okay, so the first pepper while I'm standing here is gonna be for the frittata. So I'm just making, oh, sorry, that just squirted at you. So I'm just gonna quickly do this.
Good knives also make cutting vegetables
Yes.
really fun. I
That's
just
another
got 2
item.
new, really good knives from Amazing Savings for really cheap, but it's
Really?
fun.
Yes, yes.
Really fun.
Yes.
Amazing savings?
Yes, from Amazing
Amazing
Things.
Savings.
That's
Now they have
really
like
amazing.
tons of knives and like, I don't know, I just cut like a squash and it's so much fun.
Okay, so we're gonna move that aside for the frittata.
Some good vegetable
Only
knives.
the Victorinox knives, because those will last forever.
So it's
The
not good to die,
the
but
Swiss ones.
Which one?
Anyone goes to Israel, they buy it.
You know who sells them? So,
I'm
linen
replacing,
shop.
we have
Is
a
what?
lot
The
of
linen
work
shop,
now.
they have great expensive too.
My mother-in-law has confused
Yeah,
the parts from the meat, and I'm like, whatever, it's going to
keep
be
most of my
changed,
knives
but I need knives. And everything I've read is that if you buy this knife, you'll be in the emergency room. And I'm like, I'm very bad at cutting anyway, so I'm looking at different
I have
knives
some good
now
ones.
that,
Thunder pound,
and I want a
Not
different
a gun.
handle. I want a different handle that we can't have little mix-ups.
Right.
Oh, so
They
center
have
pound, they
like-
come in
color,
like yellow,
color coded
red,
everything.
blue, white,
Everything.
everything.
Everything's color coded.
I just found when I made
That's
helpful.
awesome.
That's why I did that.
So
Yeah, like where would you get that?
You want a bowl or something? Or
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Tell you what,
I'm good. Okay, so for the frittata, I don't want so many onions. And I want to cut them nice and thin, just like the other vegetables, so that they'll cook a little faster.
You're right. There might be like.
Can I ask a quick question about Shine? So we hosted nutritionist once for Shabbos, and she was very excited, and her kids were very excited to eat my cholent, and when I brought out the pot with the liner, she was like, that was not such a good idea. So,
You mean a plastic liner?
yeah, plastic liner, she would need it.
Right,
So,
so,
I wonder the cholent. I
I'm not
wonder if
cleaning
there's
it
so do you guys know why that is?
It melts.
Okay, so when plastic,
My son used to disagree with Atara.
Yeah.
The big plastic line.
trouble you for
So
something.
I wonder if there's like,
Really?
and I said,
This is a microwave.
That's funny, she asked that question.
Yeah, so the answer to that question,
To go into it.
so does it melt? Does it really melt?
I mean, you know what?
thank you.
So there's,
Everything.
This is fine.
It's not good.
So the answer to that question
Then the next day they come out with a different.
is that plastic has something in it called phthalates, and when it gets heated, it releases those chemicals. The chemicals are considered like the chemicals, like same thing if you put a plastic in the microwave, or if you put something in a plastic bowl. Cooling, contrary to popular belief, cooling does not have the same effect. So if you put water bottles in the freezer, it used to be like, you can't drink that water. Okay, cooling doesn't release that chemical. If you know how the chemistry of it works, heating releases the phthalates, but the cooling of it doesn't, because it slows the molecules down. It prevents the release of the molecules, right? So it's really the heating process that creates really effectively, like, I'm not trying to be melodramatic, they're actually carcinogens. So like, I'm really not like I really believe in balance, but it's really not healthy to cook things in plastic so much. So if you can avoid that.
Are the lights plastic? I think they're like wax paper almost, like those.
so those ones are like a special, maybe I'll check.
What are
I
the
don't
things
know.
that are made
Slow
to
cooker line?
be heated
They're
with?
made for the slow cooker.
Yeah, it's plastic, but that's exactly what I use.
Right.
But they don't say anything on there.
Like this
It just tells you what to
plastic
do.
bowls that say like microwavable.
It just says that it's kosher. But
Okay, so all I'm putting in here right now is just the onions, and I'm going to get the onions started while I chop up the vegetables for the rice salad. So my sister happens to be a professional chef, which is very nice, and the way I did the mushrooms, she would yell at me. I washed the outside of them, which she says makes them soggy and ruins them. She tells me all the time I should peel the outside of them. Forget the washing, peel them. I have not yet graduated to having confidence in that process yet, but I know that I washed these, but that like from a pure chef standpoint, that to her that's usser. It's like you just don't do that to a mushroom. You peel it or you ruin it. Like that's how you know. So okay, we'll go with that, but I washed these. Okay, so now for the rice salad, I want to take the same onion and I want to make it into little tiny pieces because I don't want huge chunks of onion in my salad, in my rice salad. What? So I'm gonna, while I'm chopping this, I might as well
Foil pan.
give you guys a little bit more information also. So if you look up here at what I have on the second part of it,
I was saying until like.
let's, hold on, let me just look at my notes for 1 second.
What's the story with the microwave?
What do you mean?
Like people are very anti. The healthy people.
So they used to think, I mean, not they used to think, but microwaves, older microwaves used to release more radiation than they do now. They're pretty high tech, you know, everything is kind of progressed. I wouldn't tell you to like, you know, put it on for 2 hours and stand in front of it the whole time. You might get a tan. I don't know, something might happen, but you know, it just speeds up. All a microwave does is it gets the water molecules heated up. That's why things that like have high water content take longer in the microwave, and they heat so unevenly. You know, the outside gets super hot and then the inside's freezing. So all it does is it gets the water molecules to move around. So, you know, some foods, again, I would not put plastic in the microwave, and I probably wouldn't hang out right in front of it, but while it's running, but
Atara, what about the plastic bowls that say can be microwaved? Vegetables, there's like a lot of that. Plastic bowls, plastic plates that say,
so you'd have to just look into like what they're actually made of, how they protect that. It could be that what they do is they put a very thin layer of ceramic on them. That's possible, so it doesn't
actually, like the cheap plastic bowls that are combined by the case.
So they might just be the ones that don't, that they are trying to figure out how to make plastics without the chemical that gets released when
How
they're
would I
heated.
know that?
What was that?
How would I know that?
It'll say on it, it'll say like no PVC on it, or it'll
What
say,
did it say, folate or no?
it's like one of the chemicals that gets released in the plastic. So it'll say, what's the other thing that it'll say? Either phthalate free, or I want to say it's piece. Oh my gosh, what is
I
that?
know you put key something.
Oh my gosh, but why am I forgetting what this is? I say this all the time. I'm having a total mental moment.
It's worse as you get older.
I know, it's like you walk into a room, oh man, what did I come in here for? I don't remember.
I do that all the time.
Okay, so we're also gonna add carrots. These are super cool. I love these because they're like 3 colors, so they just make it really pretty. And these I'm just gonna chop into little pieces. So while we're here, and while I'm just chopping, I wanted to just say that before we move on to like the exercise piece, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what the Rambam says about, like a little bit about the Torah view on health. So really, the Rambam was not only was he an amazing physician, but he was also a Torah scholar, and he had a lot to say about how to live the healthiest life that you possibly can. And he has, you know, there are various works that have been written about what he has to say, but just relevant to us, I just picked out a few of them, what I thought were the most salient. So the first one is, it sounds obvious, it's not so simple. Eat when you're hungry and stop just before you're full. So a lot of times we eat for reasons that have nothing to do with hunger. I'm sure nobody's ever experienced eating from stress, right? Or you've never experienced, you had 2 hours of sleep the night before, your body needs energy, it's 6 o'clock, your house is falling apart, and the cookies are looking at you. Hi, I'm here, I'm gonna make your day better, right? So it's like that idea of like eating when you're hungry only sounds pashut. It's not so pashut, right? We eat for emotional reasons, we eat for cultural reasons, we eat for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with hunger, right? And that's normal. But, you know, over time, if that happens often, you're going to end up not where you want to from a body composition perspective, right? So that's just a piece to be aware of. And then a good exercise is leave a tiny bit of food on your plate. It's a really simple thing. It doesn't have to be a lot. Take a plate full of food, leave a little bit. Give your body 10-15 minutes to digest. If you're still honestly hungry, go back and finish what's on your plate. But it gives your brain a chance to like register that you're full before you feel sick. And it also, it's like a good exercise in self-control, because you're still allowing yourself, I'm not saying you don't eat whatever's on your plate, or you don't go to the, you don't go to the restaurant and get what you don't want. But to stop and leave a little is like, you know what, I'm in control here. I'm in control of what I'm eating. I'm in control of myself. I can have what I want and I can stop when I want, right? So I just think that that's like kind of a good technique that kind of can help you strike that balance. And then the other thing is like occasional treats are not what derail most people's health goals. It can even be eating healthy food, but eating too much of it. So it's always like a question of balance, right? It's like, it's okay to have a treat once in a while, but they're treats, so to speak. And you should sit down and you should enjoy them and you give yourself permission to enjoy them. But then the flip side is that even healthy foods eaten too late, too often, too much, can take you away from some of your other health goals. So that was another point. And then another trick is that most Americans, if you read the studies on it, can no longer tell the difference between hunger and thirst. So when you're not sure you're hungry, you may just be thirsty. Grab a glass of water, drink the glass of water, wait 10, 15 minutes, and then see how you feel after that. Give yourself a little time, let it register, because you could just be thirsty. That's a possibility. And most of us walk around pretty dehydrated during the day. So then the last thing that I wanted to say is just, I do a lot of work now with clients around the power of habit, right? So habits they're neural pathways that are deeply ingrained in your head. To change habits requires effort and it requires motivation. But what can't stand up against habit is willpower. It'll never work. Willpower will never overtake habits in terms of helping you make change in your life. So, and I actually took this also from the Rambam. He says, the sheer strength of willpower is inconsequential when compared to an inner desire. Willpower being the desire governed by the intellect. As a result, if there is a sudden confrontation between these two forces, willpower will be overcome easily. So, there's this famous question of, is it better if you're trying to develop the habit of giving charity? Is it better to give $1,000 to one charity or give $1 to 1,000 charities? It's better to give $1 to 1,000 charities because you're developing the habit of giving. So when it comes to changing habits, if you decide there's a habit that you do want to change, acknowledge that it's going to take energy. It doesn't have to be monumental, but your changes should be very small and ones that you can sustain over time. So let's say you want to eat better. So start with breakfast once a week. You're going to change your breakfast once a week on Tuesdays. And then just kind of notice how you feel the rest of the day. If you say, I want to change my eating habits, I'm going to clean house and I'm going to completely be a different person by tomorrow. It's like on Yom Kippur, don't we do that? Right? It's like, no, tiny steps that you consistently do over time will help to build that muscle and those habits. And I think that that's really important because a lot of times we just kind of wholesale it. It's like, I got to change. I'm desperate. I feel awful. I'm going to start exercising 6 times a week even though I haven't exercised in 17 years. And I'm never going to eat sugar again. And Dunkin' Donuts is not even on my phone anymore. I'm taking it off. Whatever it is, you're taking everything away at once. And it's hard to, there are a few people who might be successful at that, but most regular humans are probably not going to be so successful at that. But pick one small part of that habit and start working on it, and then add another little piece. Okay, I did breakfast on Tuesdays. Now I'm going to do Tuesday and Thursday breakfast. I'm going to change. And then I'm going to work on, I'm going to stop eating by 8 o'clock at night on Wednesday nights. Whatever it is, I'm just throwing out, I'm not saying these are things you have to do, but whatever your goals are is to look at what is the habit that's keeping you from your bigger goals, and then break that down into something very small and manageable over time. And then you'll feel successful, and that breeds, it breeds wanting to do more of that. So, okay, so this is up and cooking. I'm going to keep working on,
Any more bowls?
what did I just do with my knife?
Right there in front of us.
Oh, it's right there.
Anything else that you need? Bowls or?
This is just going to go into the rice. You guys have any questions while I'm chopping? Anything you want to ask, anything you want to say or add?
Were there more of these than were?
No, not of the practical kitchen ones, but I can send them. If you guys want to send me your email addresses or write them down for me.
Maybe people put them on.
I can also add you to the website mailing list because I send out recipes and videos and exercise and food and you name it. And if you go on the website, you'll see there's no cost or anything, and I won't solicit you for anything. But you can look at some of the videos that are on there and take whatever's helpful to you.
Can I ask you about something you said before? You said like incorporating fat into your diet is healthy for weight
One more time?
loss.
Yes.
So can you explain that a little better?
Sure. So it's a great question. So why is fat? So when you eat foods that have no fat in them, have you ever noticed how you feel afterwards?
Starving.
Yeah, there's protein.
Not if it's protein?
High fiber and like good proteins.
You're fine?
Yeah.
So
What do you
Yeah. Like you eat like chicken and like brown rice. You're still.
I remember in seminary,
Chicken has-
I one time had chicken. I had like 10 pieces of chicken without anything else. I was not getting full.
And if you eat
I had
fiber
probably-
with that, you eat like.
So I didn't. I guess I was a crazy seminary girl, but like I didn't like whatever went with it that night. I must have had at least 10 pieces of chicken, and I like thought it was the craziest thing. It wasn't filling me up.
What protein fills me?
I don't know.
They used to have the
But I think
Stillman
even with a
diet.
little bit of something,
What's
you know,
that?
a little
The
bit.
Stillman, oh.
What's that?
that's-
I thought I'd heard of every diet in the world. I don't know that one.
Oh my God, we were old. Pearl, do you remember the Stillman diet? No. It's this one guy that you eat protein, just protein, and you lose weight. So when I met my husband, he was
Like
much lighter.
It's like Atkins.
Yes, it's the Atkins.
Yeah.
Right, but literally no,
And no fat? How do you-
no fat, but no carbs.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's Atkins.
Right.
that one
That-
has fat.
He was like the originator of the Atkins
Atkins
diet, I
has
guess.
fat. But I've been told by a friend who's a doctor who, it depends what the person is and who the person is.
True.
You know, some can go on Weight Watchers, and he doesn't recommend it to certain men or people who have a lot to lose and have a hard time,
Right?
will not be successful on a Weight Watchers. So he recommends, he doesn't call it Atkins, but it's similar to an Atkins. And he says, like you just said, not all fats are bad.
Right.
And fat does not cause cholesterol.
Right.
And he recommends it to many of his patients who do lose quite a bit of weight. They don't feel hungry, but they do not have, it's not big on, you know, like breads and carbs and stuff like that.
Right.
But it is on filling up on meat and things of that sort.
So there are
Cheese.
two
And he
primary
has three phases to it.
systems in the body that are made out of fatty acids. Anyone have a physiology background here? Two systems in the body that are made out of fatty acids. Hormones are made from fat, and your brain is primarily fatty acids, which is why kids who have ADHD, attention issues, people with Parkinson's, people who have neurological diseases, what's the diet that a neurologist recommends? What's like, my son is epileptic, for example. What's the diet that he's supposed to be on? It's high fat. Why? Because it calms his brain down, right? Because your brain is fundamentally fatty acids. So the kids who have, and adults too, if there's anything neurological going on, chances are a high fat, and I don't mean that it should be like the super bad high fats. It's got to be olive oil and nuts and avocado, you know, are wonderful fats, right? So it's really a question of, you know, kind of balancing the healthy and the unhealthy fats. But if you look at the effect of high carb on, you know, what are the diseases that have exploded? Diabetes. And guess who is the biggest population of growth in type 2 diabetes right now? Type 2.
Americans.
Well, besides Americans, for sure Americans.
Mm.
Kids.
Children.
Kids
Yeah.
are the number one growth area for type 2 diabetes, which was never seen in kids before. Never. Until the last 20 years. And what's been the biggest factor since like the whole anti-fat of the 80s? what's the sugar. Carbs, right, exactly. So like being afraid of good fats hasn't helped us. It's sent us in the other direction, right? So, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, fats are obviously high in calories. If you're trying to manage your body weight, you want to factor that in. But they're helpful and healthful in the right quantities and in the right types. And it's just important to be aware of that. And if you have yourself or family members for sure who have anything around attention, who have anything around anything like kind of neurological, those healthy fats are really like lifesavers. They really can change like even anxiety, depression, etc. Those are all very much helped by higher fat and reduced by lower carbohydrate. So, and obviously exercise is very helpful in all that too. So, yeah, so that's the story. And hormones are made out of fat, which is why I said like post 40 women, you know, like a lot of stuff changes in us when we bypass 40, you know, so it's like having a higher fat, healthy higher fats in your diet can help to manage some of the symptoms from hormonal change really. So, okay, so this is going to be for the rice. So I cut it into smaller pieces. And then we're going to talk a little bit about exercise. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys a question. How many of you work out? Raise your hand.
Ask me who my trainer is.
How many of you exercise?
Just up and down the stairs count.
How many of you work out? 2 people raise their hands. How many of you exercise? What's the difference?
In my brain, I do.
How many wish we
Okay.
Bike riding for the first time in a long time.
What's the difference between working out and exercise? And what am I talking about? What is Atara talking about? Okay, so there's a really big fancy word. You guys are going to learn a big fancy acronym here. I'm going to try not to impale myself. Can I get rid of this?
Yeah, I got a picture.
You got a picture?
Oh yeah. Spread it out. We need this. This is important. Do you want
Want a napkin?
Oh no, my hands are great. This is even going to be new for you. That's the acronym. Can you see it? Neat. Non. Exercise.
Bless you.
God bless you. It's up here.
It was gorgeous. Who were you going for? I told the kids I'm going, but I can't.
Oh my gosh. My brain.
We just went from there.
You have to do. Yeah. No, they said
This is such a big fancy word.
I used to bike ride all the
I
time.
bought a bike when I moved here.
All the
We
time.
used it like 3 times.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Who's got that
I
one?
have like a little scarf.
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. What the jive is that? So that means that if you go to the gym to work out, how often might that be?
Once a week.
Maybe? For how long?
Half hour? An hour.
If you go to the gym once a week for an hour, how many hours are there in a week? Try 144. So I always say, I have a famous line that I say to my clients all the time, you can't out-train a bad diet, right? You can't exercise enough to compensate for bad food choices unless you are an ultra-marathon runner. And then goes into, hey, you can do whatever you want. If you're putting on 120 miles a week on your legs, you can do whatever you want. But unless you aren't, unless you're not in that category, 144 hours a week, going to the gym once a week is not going to change much. When 143 hours a week, you're sitting. Right? And how much are you going to burn in that hour? Even if you go to a HIIT training class, even if you give it 1,000% in the gym, you come home, you sweat like a pig, right? And you're just like, you burn 600 calories at the gym. That's 4 Oreo cookies. Congrats, right? I'm not putting down the gym. I'm a trainer. Like, I love the gym. I love exercise. More for what it does for people's minds than their bodies, right? But 144 hours a week and I want you to try and move for a lot more of them. The effect of moving more throughout your day, up the stairs, park at the end of the at the end of the parking lot. I always laugh because when I go to the gym, people are going there to work out. They wait for the front parking spot. You're here to work out. You can't walk the extra 40 feet to that spot in the back? For real? You know what I mean? So it's like, I just always found that to be quite a steer. But anyway, so try, I hear all the time, I don't have time to work out. So don't work out, but move, right? As much as you can, move. Take the stairs, dance in your kitchen while you're cooking dinner. I don't know, when you go to vacuum your living room, I want you to like really vacuum. You know what I mean? Like move your body. If you move your body a lot during the day, you get up, if you have a desk job, the rule is 55-5. That means for every 55 minutes you sit, you get up for 5. You get up, you move. Before you guys leave, I'm going to have you guys do like exercises with chairs before you go so that you can see some of the things you can do sitting in your desk. But it's important of those 144 hours a week that the only time you move isn't just that hour a week at the gym. Okay, that's better than nothing, right? The hour a week at the gym. But the effect on your overall health and the effect on your overall body composition is much more significant if you just move. And people always say, what's the best form of exercise for me to do? What's always my answer? Whatever you'll do. The best exercise, people say, what's the best piece of exercise equipment, Atara, that I can buy? I'm like, the one that you're going to use is the best one. Like, if you tell me you hate the treadmill, but you're thinking about buying a treadmill, I'll say, why are you thinking about buying a treadmill? And I really like jumping on a trampoline. Great, buy a trampoline. You know what I mean? So whatever you're going to use is the one that you want to do. Whatever form of exercise is going to make you happy and keep you moving and make you joyful, that's the exercise I want you to do. Because you're going to do it. You're going to get more out of it than just weight management. If you like to dance, if you like to ski, if you like to kickbox, if you like to, it should have more associated with it. You should be getting some kind of immediate pleasure out of whatever exercise you decide to do. Because if you hate it, how long are you going to do it for? Not very long. I wouldn't. You know, like I have to do something that I enjoy doing, or I'm not going to do it. Don't tell me I have to go swimming. I'm never going to do it. I hate swimming. You know what I mean? Like you have to pick what sport works for you. So that's just something to think about is when people say, like, that's why I said, do you work out and do you exercise? Because they're totally not the same. And you have these 144 hours a week to work with. You know, it's the same thing when people come to me for personal training. I'm like, I get you 2 hours a week. You want to lose 20 pounds in 2 days? Okay, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Like, I gained this weight over 6 years. I want to lose it all in 4 weeks. Okay, work with me a little. You know what I mean? But I always say to them, I get you 2 hours a week. The other 142 hours a week, I have no control over. So you got to think about what you're doing with those other 142 hours a week. What you're eating, how you're moving, how you're drinking, how you're sleeping, right? Sleep is a big deal when it comes to weight management. A big deal. It's a big deal for hormones. It's a big deal for stress. It's a big deal. Yes, it really is. It's a very big deal. So anyway, so that's just like something to think about from the exercise perspective. Any questions on that? Movement? Am I scaring you all? Am I scaring you all quiet? What?
Processing.
Processing. Good. Processing is good. Hopefully if you take like one thing, that'll be helpful. I'll be happy on today. Okay, so now we've got the vegetables here for the rice, and we've got the frittata going. So I'm going to actually just whisk this. And these are nice and soft. Obviously, when I'm cooking at home, this is not taking me very long because I'm just doing that. Okay, so we're going to add that to the eggs. So I actually brought some different cheeses to add to this. Great cheeses for this, where it gives you need a little bit of cheese for a lot of flavor. Asiago cheese is a delicious cheese. Fresh grated Parmesan. Oh, thank you so much. Just because we had flakes on the table too.
I know, I said we kind of them both out.
I love this guy, the cheese guy. Have you seen this? He's got like amazing cheeses. I love them. So this is just his, any, like, most kosher grocery stores carry them now. You guys can pass that around if you just want to see the brand. And then this is just Parmesan, but if you can find Asiago, it's like my favorite for putting in eggs because it's such a strong flavor. And then this is, I know, my plug for Trader Joe's again. Pastures of Eden feta cheese. It's the best feta cheese, and Trader Joe's just carries it. I don't know why to carry it, but it's OUD, and is it? I'm pretty sure it's called Yisrael.
Kabanta.
I don't have my glasses on, so
Crazy Trader Joe's would have a
Product of Israel.
Trader Joe's, I have to go.
It says
Here.
product of
I
Israel.
think this side had.
Called Israel. It is called Israel.
That is so cool.
That is so cool.
Yep, they carry it with their other feta cheeses, which is pretty
One
cool.
thing that we don't have here is Trader Joe's.
Oh.
Really? Not even like
I remember we
driving
went to an
distance?
Alpen, someone's
There's
like,
Trader-
there's one thing you don't have,
There's
and
one
that's
on
Trader
one near
Joe's.
Princeton, and then there's one on 35 near
And they have the
Shrewsbury.
best spices.
I'm just gonna cover this so it cooks.
I use all their
I have a lot
spices.
of, they're good, my grandmother
There is
makes
Trader
them.
Joe's.
They're like good
Yeah.
rice mixture.
What
ones.
is it? They came in
There's
like a year
it's
ago.
called lime. Lime and something, everything but the bagel.
Oh yeah, that I have on my phone, the bagel spice, I look
Lime
at
and chili. I think
Nothing but the bagel.
So then,
everything bagel spice.
Everything but the bagel.
Everything, yeah.
Everything but the bagel. It's a
Right,
great
right, right,
spice.
right,
Yeah.
right.
so the remaining vegetables
Yes.
that we have here are gonna be
It's very good,
vegetable
but
prep for the week. So I'm gonna leave the mushrooms whole. They've been washed, or you guys can peel them, or whatever works for you. But they're gonna keep better whole, so I'm gonna leave those. So but those are washed and ready to go into a Tupperware, just so that you can grab them. The carrots, I would cut them, I would probably put them away in chunks. But since I don't know what I'm gonna use them for, because let's say I'm gonna use them for a stir fry, right? And I know that I'm gonna do that, so I'm gonna wanna julienne them. Okay, if I'm gonna do a stir fry, so I'm gonna do that with them. The onion, I also would probably just leave unless I know, let's say I know I'm gonna use it for a stir fry. And then in that case, I would probably slice it, wrap it in a paper towel, and put it in a Ziploc.
Well, I think,
So that's ready.
well, if you leave the skin on, it's not a problem overnight in the fridge, because there's a shaila about halachically.
Because it's harif, right?
I don't know, I think
Put a little
it's
salt.
onions.
You can put a
Put
drop
salt
of
in it.
Really?
Drop of
Drop of
oil or
something
salt.
else.
There's
Really?
something
That's
about it
halacha?
halachically,
I
yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
Drop
it
of
just
salt,
needs to be
drop of
mixed with
water,
something
yeah.
else.
That's so
I don't know what
cool.
water does it.
That is
Oil
so
and
wild.
salt. Right.
Salt,
Yeah.
and
Did not know
other
that.
vegetables will do it also.
Yeah.
Mix it together with the
Yeah, other vegetables, right, yeah.
And also eggs, that's
So like
why
you
I
can't
like
put it on
it.
here.
But ask your local Orthodox rabbi about
Your
that.
LOR.
Yeah, ask your
And then
LOR.
I would also take the peppers, just for ease, and I would chop them.
So once you cut out the cotton leaf,
What? What time is it? Oh my goodness, it's late. Okay, fine. So I'm gonna finish up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. I love this house. What was that?
Things up for you. It takes you a couple This is the problem, I'm so tempted to eat it, I'm like, I feel.
This is not about feeling guilty about eating. That's not it at all.
What did you just say?
So once you cut any onions or garlic, we brunch. So once you cut off the part of it, then you're supposed to mix it into something. And if you're not doing that, you just want to put onions, sprinkle a little bit of salt, sprinkle.
Oh, okay.
So that's right. So that's a little bit of the process.
So-
You just buy it. You'll notice that the garlic has a little bit of the fat on it.
This is very delicious.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Fine. I bought the
Rice is ready.
We started had a little bit of the fat on
So we're gonna add some of the mushrooms to it.
Which I totally cook with the
Well,
top
when
on
you
top.
get- Right,
Don't even take
but
it off.
it's
Are you
still
supposed to
fine.
take
But
it
when
off?
you buy some of them and then it's nothing on it, then I feel like it becomes a little bit of a problem.
But not every single garlic clove has a
I
little.
know. So my husband left it
Maybe
and he
it's
was
from the
fine
whole,
with
like
it.
if they keep the whole.
The whole bulb is fine.
So one of the
No, like
things,
the already peeled,
Oh,
the
right.
you on it.
Right, right.
Maybe
I
it's
know.
and they had like star cake, they're sprinkling salt.
They're
or
not.
doing something.
They're not. Or there's another heter that if you're using it for, if it's being mass produced, there is a leniency that you could rely on that also. I don't know.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to show you also, and thank you Kaya for this is like a perfect bowl for this, is that if you look at the vegetables here, I cooked 2 cups of rice uncooked, which makes probably like 4 cups of rice cooked, maybe 5 cups of rice cooked. So I have all these gorgeous vegetables. I'm just adding a little more mushroom to this. My apologies if you don't like fungus. Okay, so, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take probably the equivalent of just a cup of cooked rice. Okay, so if you want to use this rice for other things during the week.
That was so fast.
What?
But the rice got
Yeah, and I just forgot about it. I just put it in and forgot about it. So the
How long
rice
did
is
it
totally
take?
cooked.
How long
Takes
does it
about
take?
20 minutes. Takes about 20 minutes, and you can use any kind of rice.
Basmati rice?
Yeah.
20 minutes, and then it's like,
And brown basmati, not brown rice.
like cooking it in the oven.
It's very fast.
How does it work? I've never had a rice.
Ladies, I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
Bye, Shush. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, I'll see you tomorrow.
So I'm going to add like maybe,
How does it work?
Say it.
How does it know when to shut off? I never.
because it's calibrated by weight.
Really?
So when the water evaporates, it like senses the weight in the beginning, and then it shuts itself off once the water's evaporated, and it calibrates it soaked into the rice. Bye, love you, Shush. Then it shuts off automatically based on the weight of the pot. So you'll see there's like a little spring action thing underneath it. When you put it down, you'll feel it kind of sink into the spring, and then it shuts off based on the weight of the pot. So I'm going to add, let's say it's like maybe 2 cups of rice.
That's the bottom line. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, please sit down.
I'm like getting.
No, you know what challenge is that? My kids don't eat real food, right?
Really?
My kids are little, right? My oldest is 3.
Yeah.
And they don't eat like normal food. And I'm nursing, my baby's allergic to milk and eggs, so I can't eat dairy or eggs. And I'm like, I just eat
limited,
hot dog. I don't know, like, what do you eat?
Yeah, that's when you have to like get creative about your food.
You have to have time.
Right, time for prep. That's the hardest.
Well, but you can just
But I like
set
this.
a
You know,
block
it's
of
really
time.
hard.
Right, it's about prioritizing. If it's a
It is about
priority in your
yes.
life, then you have
That's right.
That's
This is
Exactly.
good. You know what else? I think I need to plan out my menu on Sunday. And then you could have the vegetables and like, it also saves money. Because then you
Right,
know,
yeah, for sure.
instead of like,
What is this,
You guys
yellow
are
carrot?
What was that? Yeah, these are yellow carrots, white carrots, and orange carrots. This is raw onion if you guys don't like it, but you can feel free to taste this. I would probably put for this, I actually would make this dairy. I would probably sprinkle some of the cheese on top of it. If it was me, because like I eat cheese, like you put cheese on anything and I'll eat it basically, you know. But this is definitely something that I would add that sharpness and the kind of the bang that you get from some of the sharper cheeses. I would add to this. So you guys are welcome to try that.
On this for a reason?
You could totally put soy sauce. It
want
would be
soy sauce? Oh, we
delicious
have
with soy
sushi.
sauce. You could make it with sesame. You could drizzle a little sesame oil on it. Absolutely. You could do lemon juice and olive oil. Like this is totally undoctored.
And you
But-
don't usually cook the vegetables first?
No, but you certainly can. You certainly
Put it in your
can.
lettuce salad.
What was that?
You can put it in your lettuce salad.
Put the rice in?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could put it like, it could be with a protein. You can pair it with a salad. You could pair it with beans or lentils. I mean, like I left it super plain, but you could totally do an Asian vibe. You could totally do the sesame and the soy. You could then do an Italian. You could chop tomatoes into it and, you know, make it like with some kind of sauce like that. I mean, it's like whatever it's so basic that it's like whatever flavors you're drawn to. You could add, if you wanted to make this like a sweeter version, you could chop apple and put raisin and add pecans to it. If you want, you can really, once you have the rice as the foundation, you can turn it into 1,000 different things, you know?
You don't have to eat it all by yourself because your kids are not going to enjoy it.
can I send this around? And please take and pass.
I just want to know if you can freeze it.
And here's our frittata. Yes, you can freeze rice. Yes.
Raw vegetables, why not?
Yes, you can freeze
Atara,
rice.
what's amino somethings that I keep on seeing?
I'm sorry?
Is a substitute, a healthy substitute for soy sauce.
Oh, aminos?
Aminos.
What is
yes,
that?
Amino something, no?
So they're
feel
like
like I just
amino
heard that.
I'm reading it
acids.
all over.
And I know
don't
what
know
that
it
is.
They're high it's a protein. Amino acids.
Amino acid, is that what it is?
Well, amino acids are proteins, so they're called healthy aminos.
Oh my
And they have like probiotics in them, and it's made out of a protein. I think it's made from soy protein.
It's a jar, it's a.
It comes in a bottle. It comes in a bottle.
And it really, it's a really good substitute for soy sauce?
So for people who don't want soy, do you like it?
Why do you,
From Israel, but they may not have nitrates.
why not eat soy sauce? Does it have sugar in it? Why do
No,
it?
it's very
I'm saying, but why would
some
people
people
do
are
that?
allergic to soy.
But I'm saying besides for that.
Yeah,
And it's very salty, so that could also be, it's very high salt content.
Does anyone mind if I put Parmesan cheese in the frittata?
You will be.
Then your place chick,
What?
your
You'll be
milk
Milflex for, right?
6 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Certain Parmesan cheese.
Really? Oh, so maybe skip that.
Is that okay?
I didn't even know
Can we
that.
do regular cheese? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is coconut oil healthy or not healthy?
Oh, great question.
Yeah, recently I've heard it's not, and it used to be.
So there's definitely a machlokas in the nutrition world. If coconut oil is the panacea that it was touted to be.
Aged over 10
It's
months.
certainly great for skin. It's a good fat in moderation. I would not tell you to eat it, it will help your skin. You can also, like some people do these coconut washes, like they'll put the coconut oil in their mouth. It's solid at room temperature. It's one of the only that and palm oil are the only two fats that are solid at room temperature, which is why they can use them as a substitute for hydrogenated oil in baked goods. Like if you look at the healthy baked goods that say non-hydrogenated, invariably they use palm oil. No, they use palm oil because coconut's much more expensive. Palm oil's dirt cheap from Indonesia, you know? What was that?
Palm oil is healthy?
Palm oil is,
It's healthy today, it's not so healthy tomorrow?
it's better than hydrogenated oil. It's better than trans fats, which basically are being phased out. I mean, for all intents and purposes, everybody knows about them. Nobody wants to eat them.
Wait, 1 second. Is coconut oil? I missed
Coconut
what you
oil
said.
is good.
That's good.
Coconut oil's fine.
I just
It
found out the
has
recipe.
a
So
coconut
expensive.
flavor, so you can't use it in everything.
Right, also
If you buy the refined one, does not taste like coconut anymore.
Right, that's true. So those are, if they're refined and then filtered, you're just left with like the pure coconut fat, and it's fine. So can I put feta in?
Yeah. Go for it.
Anyone
I just want to show
hate
you, see
feta?
it says here aged over 10 months?
Yeah.
So the problem really is once it's aged over 12 months. Once it's aged over 12 months, then it's counted like it's aged for a year, and you have to wait 6 hours.
Wow.
So
They
this,
don't want to lock themselves into a corner. It could be it is, it could be it's not. So we wait 6 hours after this because you just don't know.
right.
So I guess my Asiago cheese, I have to look at the hours.
What is Asiago?
It's just, it's like a gourmet cheese. It's hard to find kosher. I find it in Teaneck. There's a store called Grand and Essex that I love. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
Love Grand and Essex. And I do a lot of shopping there, so. Okay, so I'm gonna, you can leave the frittata open-faced. Can you see it? Now that my hands are full of feta cheese. You can leave it open-faced and cut it in quarters. You can have it with a piece of toast in the morning, whatever. I'm gonna flip it and cut it into thinner slices for you guys to try. So,
You poured the egg on top?
You all the
yep, I
vegetables?
sauteed the vegetables, poured the egg on top.
Do you don't put anything in the egg when you do it? Like,
What do you mean?
like you mix the egg with like milk or nothing like
Did you
that?
add the yolk and you did both?
Yeah,
parts,
definitely.
Yeah,
Wash
do you
your
want
hands
to
with
put that on?
What was that?
What do you want, a plate?
Or just
Yeah.
yeah, I can put it in vegetables.
I like the house
Shakshuka, that's what I want.
Oh,
to make
really?
weekly. It's
You like
not
it?
work.
No, I
No, I don't know if I like it. I tried, but it didn't work.
You like tomato?
I don't know.
We just put it
Whatever I
through
made didn't
shakshuka,
work, so I
is
don't
that-
like what I made.
Right.
Yeah.
Very certain teeth.
It didn't work. Don't do what I did.
But it's like, you make like a tomato with beef.
In Israel, went on.
And you make it cold and you put like the egg.
We went on before.
It didn't work. Funny story is that my boss took a Chinese guy out to eat, and he wanted him to like be cured of went to it, so he ordered shakshuka.
I'm committed.
Nice. We have the egg soup.
Who went?
Kosher food, egg soup.
Here, you guys can feel free to take veggies too.
Come on, everybody.
You want to try it, you're gonna eat
I
that.
know, we're gonna be having like one
It's
of
like a try yellow.
Yellow carrot.
my mother-in-law loves.
I did. It was delicious.
Yeah, it's very
What I
sweet.
make was not shakshuka. It was an attempt.
But you would. So I would
Take and pass.
want to try to saute them a little bit.
I
totally fine.
Right.
It's just another
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to get you a plate?
That's okay.
We went on a shukah.
Was it good?
It was
I like
delicious.
Lots of rice.
How many quarts?
The one I made wasn't.
Oh, okay.
That was a
My
good
husband
question.
tried it and it came out good.
Sorry, I'm
That's okay, look
The recipe.
inside.
He loves
What is
to
it? I don't have my glasses on.
And,
No,
it
that's
came out
just
delicious, but
warming.
on the shukah, we try to
Good,
hold
here.
on to them because they,
Oh, there you go.
it was
The
really nice.
capacity
They
is 8
explained
cups.
to you what's the bread
I don't know how many
is
quarts
different
that
than the.
Can you make sushi rice?
Couldn't get it off.
Yes, I do all the time.
I like that's my one mess up. It's so hard to make a good sushi rice.
It is.
And workshops, especially when you're like everything else.
So I'm sure yours was delicious too, but as the
I'm not
first
so
time
sure.
And also from like the big no-nos for the kids,
But I
between
was
like the
trying to
high
explain what it is.
fructose
It's
and the
bread
trans
with
fat and the
eggs
chemicals
and-
and the coloring, like which is like
But the
like if you
eggs
want to take a sponge,
inside,
which is like
If you want to take what?
the first step for the kids.
For the healthy.
What's like
Like you make
what's
little holes
like
and pour the
the
egg
easiest
inside
or the
and poach it
like the
inside
smartest
the
to cut
fridge.
out, like the most important, or the sugar between the like the high fructose, the coloring, the
Good
chemicals,
question.
like what like
For overall health,
yeah, like just like for lifestyle, like for the kids to try to like.
such a good question.
I was supposed to pick right.
Because I feel like if you get rid of one, you'll get rid of others. Like if you get rid of the food coloring,
Okay, like that's
You're gonna-
that's easy. Like
Yeah, I wouldn't
Sort
say
of,
that. I
you
don't
know,
know.
Right.
that's
It's
not
not
food
made,
coloring,
but, wow.
Candy, dark it is.
okay, that's
I never even heard of
anyways,
that.
we really stopped
You
candy
think
because
that
it's
it's what
addictive.
it's a good question.
Chocolate is
I don't
better
know how to
than candy.
answer that. Like what's the first step? I would say like look at what you think the biggest issue is. Is it sugar consumption? Is it,
No, it's just like making better choices or.
so I probably would lean in the sugar direction. Like working on reducing overall processed sugars, whether it's high fructose corn syrup or regular sugar, is looking for things that are sweetened more naturally with honey, with maple syrup, with, I would probably head in that direction. Because as soon as you
Well, they're gonna
start.
have sugar, so like you know.
But there's like sugar in baked goods, and then there's sugar like in sugar cereals and candy and
Like even like
You know.
yogurt and applesauce. It's like just a matter of choosing this one over this one.
right.
I was so far by this week. I was in Birmingham.
Just wanna
I ran
cut
to pick
this
up
for
the
you guys
yogurt,
to try this.
and I picked up a plain yogurt because I'm like I do half and half with the kids.
Right.
Like I feel like okay, at least I'm doing half. Like that's instead of 35 grams of sugar, they're only having like they're having half. And it's
Right, good.
It was
That's a
plain
big
sweet,
step.
and I realized on Shabbos it said plain, and then in little letters it said sweet, and I was hungry. And I
Oh.
the whole
Never
week,
even heard of
here I
that.
was,
They're a knife.
could you imagine?
Classic knife.
Plain sweet.
I believe it.
And like
You
they're
can try
grams
it.
of sugar for whatever.
Mindy, that's
It was disgusting. I just didn't realize. I grabbed the plain. I know. I was just I didn't make a mistake. I was so upset because that's my kids eat like a good cup of.
I want you guys to try
My
this.
kids eat Greek yogurt. Like that's chocolate chips. Like I'm not like whatever. You know?
So a couple other just movement suggestions.
Take her to, because I know she loves that thing.
That looks really good.
Yeah, I want you guys to try this.
I think what's it?
They see it. Making good choices.
You want to take and pass? Let me
I
see
feel like my
if there
sister's older
is.
kids are starting to make better choices also because
Can use
they
this.
see
Oh, that's a good one.
Like I make sure.
my sister's
Now,
like
they don't even
everything.
Sarah is sitting over there behind
Not
you.
joking. My sister Honey, when we went to Florida, she like started putting out bowls of fruit all over the house.
Just so you guys can take a piece of this.
Kids going, they just, everyone like, sure enough, there's 30 or 35 kids in the house. They just walk by and take it out, take it
Around so everyone can try.
You see it.
So do you guys have any questions for me before I think everyone's like kind of wrapping up a little bit? Any new questions about exercise? Oh, you guys want to do the chair workout? Yeah? Okay. So
Now it's on the
I'll let them pass that around.
They changed on the side of my
Okay, so everybody stand up.
And also the use that the farmers work on the open lake one. I have 6 minutes, $30.
How are we gonna
6 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay, so things that you can do with a chair. So the first thing I don't know if we're even gonna have space to do this.
We can like move that over there, like.
We can come here.
So maybe I'll take someone who's gonna demo
We ate a
this.
lot today.
What?
the demo.
What was that? You wanna be the demo? Let's take a folding chair that way. Yeah, I'm gonna have be my victim. Okay, everybody's got, I want to be my victim. Anybody? Bueller? Anyone? Okay, so you're gonna come around to this side of the chair. We're gonna just do some quick things you can do seated. So you're gonna sit down in the chair, put your hands here in front. So you're gonna hold on to the chair, I'm gonna show you. You're gonna go like this. So your hands are gonna be here, and you're gonna walk your body away from the chair. Walk your feet away. Stay, keep your back close to the chair. Keep your back, bend your elbows, and let your hips come down towards the floor. Now push them back. Don't push your hips up. Keep your hips bent. Bend your elbows. Now straighten your elbows. Straighten. Bend them. Good. Straighten. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Keep going. Bend. Straighten. How do you feel? Getting harder? Bend. Straighten. Again. 2 more. Hips back. Bend. Straighten. 1 more time. Bend and straighten. Good. Triceps. Okay. I'm going to have you flip. So now we're going to borrow this. Okay. I'm going to have you take a plank position. So you're going to hold right here. Okay. So hands under shoulders. Good. Hold. Hips up. You want to be a plank like a surfboard. Hold. What's she working?
Abs.
Abs. What else?
Arms.
Arms. Yep.
Neck muscles.
Good. Now fire up your glutes, fire up the tush muscles. Not your shoulders. I saw that. Good. Okay. Now you're going to bend your elbows out to the side and give me a push up.
My body.
Good. Keep that plank. Okay, we're going to modify that. Come to your knees. Drop down to your knees. Good. Now give me a push up. Hands wider, fingers forward. So shoulder away from your ears. Good. And push down. Your whole body. You want your tush to come down, but your whole body down. Okay, so you what you want to get out of this is you want to look like a nice straight line, right? So when you
Show us how you do it. Okay.
That's okay, you were great. Yeah. So when you're here, right, on the slide, you want to either be straight bodied here on your chair where your chest comes all the way down, or if you're on your knees, you're going to go chest down, chest back, chest down, chest back. Okay, next exercise you can do. Okay, I need another victim like Kaya. Okay, so have a seat. I want you to relax your shoulders. Okay, you're going to lean back into the chair a little bit. I want you to pick your feet up off the floor, keeping your knees bent. Bend your knees, lift your knees up. Higher. Where do you feel these?
That is hard.
Where do you feel them?
I guess my stomach.
Okay, now straighten your legs out. Straighten one at a time in front of you. Lift it up. Lift. Bend your knees. Bend your knees. Good. Lift. Now I want you to hold. Extend one leg out. Out. And come back in. Pull it back in. Reach that one other leg out. Pull it back in. Still feel it here. Pull your belly in tight. Relax your shoulders. So this is what happens a lot with people. Do you ever feel like you're like really tight up here in your shoulders and your neck? We do all our lifting from here because we've disconnected from what's going on here, yeah? Right, so that's where you want to be on this. You want to be able to, and then you're going to start with just one leg. Then you're going to put it back down, but you're going to lean back, no hands. Look, ma, no hands. Lift the leg up, put it back down. Lift the other leg up, put it back down. Do it again. Okay, now we're going to add obliques to it. Twist into that leg. Come back to center, put it back down. Lift the other leg up, twist to center. Come in, twist over the front leg. Shaking is good. Yeah, that's good. So drop your knee, so high, drop your knee, lift your right leg up, twist over the right knee, over the right. Yeah, twist into your leg that's up. Good, come back and set it back down. As you get stronger, you can start to lean back, no hands, double leg, and then eventually you want to,
Yeah.
I have
no,
pictures.
she was taking pictures,
Just
then you
pictures.
can double leg back direction.
So,
Lean back into your chair until you feel your belly engage. Okay, you want to feel it here, concentrate on pulling the belly in nice and tight. Lift the leg up, you can do this in your office, you can do this in your kitchen, doesn't really matter. You want to move in a way that you can get it into your schedule, right? Move any way, anyhow, anytime. Okay, who's got strong legs?
not me.
Strong legs, good mobility. Don't all jump at once, man. Okay, step ups. So, foot on, tap. Come back down. Sorry, Faya, forgive me. Step up, come back down. Push, step up. If you've had knee replacement, please don't do this. Step up, come back down, okay? You want to get fancy, you can lift your legs behind you. You can move your legs. Yeah, if you want a more stable chair. Stand up, no hands. Keep your chest up. Push through your heel, stand to the top, come back down. Good, push, stay on that same leg.
We start with a little step.
Tap back down. Yes. That's where you start.
Picture somebody.
I don't know.
So she'll send them to me, but you know, I won't post them. Yeah, whatever you need to. So, and one thing you can do at the end of the day, a couple like really good stretches if you're sitting in your chair, so this one won't hurt, I promise. See? Scoot yourself all the way back into the chair. I want you to take your hands and put them behind you on the chair, up at the top, and open your shoulders up. So fingers pointing down, yep. You feel a stretch in the chest, stretch in the shoulders.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, next one. You're going to take your right arm up. You're going to put it on your left shoulder blade. You're going to take the other hand, grab this elbow, hold. Feel a stretch?
Yeah.
Good. Feels good, right? When you're sitting, like we do everything in this position, internally rotate the shoulders, right? We want to open that up, externally rotate the shoulders, open the chest, and then switch sides. So now left over your right shoulder blade, grab your left elbow with your right hand, and pull, grab here, and pull. Good. Feel that stretch?
Yeah.
So if you want a leg workout also that isn't as intense as the step ups, you can use this for balance. You can always do side lifts when you're standing in your kitchen chopping vegetables. You can do calf raises.
So smart.
Really, you might as well.
That's good
Like
for you.
you're in the kitchen, you might as well get your workout in, right? It makes perfect sense. Standing here, abducting the hip, extending the hip, right? Leg circles. This is fun while you're trying to cut onions. Okay, maybe don't do that one, right? But anything you can do to just move while you might as well multitask. Women are awesome at multitasking. We were born to do it, you know? So those are a couple things you can do just with a chair, office, kitchen, dining room, wherever. You don't need a gym, just your body. Good? Yeah?
Yes.
Any questions? Comments,
We could like a
criticisms?
video demo of this. We can remember it. That's the problem.
I can send out a video.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, if you guys give me your emails, I'll send
I
it
don't
out.
know like how you're supposed to be positioning the
I know.
video.
Yeah.
So I can talk you
Like
through
with
it.
the
by
other
video.
store. So that's when like you feel like all the tension in your neck or in your head, and like you know you're not accessing the right place.
I don't recommend sit-ups to most people. I rarely do them in training.
Isn't it really not good for your legs?
In what way?
I don't know, muscles, like I'm saying,
Just people don't control them well. So then you end up lifting from your upper body
Right.
and your neck and even your face.
Right.
So if someone's got really good control, there is a place for sit-ups. So your abs have layers, right? So the kind of the cosmetic layer are the rectus abdominis muscles. That's the six-pack that everybody wants, right? But then really the ones like for women, especially if you've had kids, is the transverse abdominis, or the really deep muscles. Those are the spinal stabilizers. Those are the ones that keep your posture good over time. The six-pack is good and you want that and all of that, but you know that has to come along with a clean diet to actually really see that. But those transverse abdominis, that deep core muscle, is what gives your spine the integrity that it needs. So those are the muscles that you hit with planks. A lot of the other exercises that are not crunches. Crunches don't really do much for that. And they're not a bad exercise. You just have to do them right. And a lot of people just, we sit like this all the time, right? And so your brain just goes, like the connection between your brain and your core muscles just go to sleep. Well, you can wake them up.
Right. No, I mean,
The training, right, wake it up. But it takes, it takes time.
There's a woman on the YouTube, her name is Leslie Sansom, S-A-N.
Oh, I've seen her at conferences.
She has a rhythm, and it's 4 steps, and from the 4 steps, it's walking in place, and then she has you go to and add on to it. And then she moves where your waist, she adds on to it. She's very
To
good.
regular walking, you mean?
Yeah, and she
She
starts
does a program, right? It's called something.
Very, very good. Very
What's
good.
what's the name of the program? She does, it's something.
You need to look at it. It's walk.
She works better than me.
Very, very good.
Yeah, I'm like, when I do
She
that,
said
there's
that
never
you
like your everything.
to the business,
Like,
I work for you. That's
It's like
it's
a daily-
the best.
My daughter bought it for herself when she did course.
I get
it's just delicious. It is so good.
So
That's all she buys is my
That's like
daughter.
anyone else for her. That's what
That's what she's saying.
It's great.
Never buy it on my way.
Well, you're going walking. You don't have, okay, you don't look like you're old enough to have your daughter that, you know, you have
Oh,
like
it's
12
walking
or
in
13,
place?
right?
12.
Yeah, my granddaughter's 12.
It's like March.
Well, she starts you with.
My oldest one is 23.
So good.
Oh.
It's like-
Yeah, it's all called walking.
You're and then you're better than my young dad. She is to it. She is to it. It's in place.
That's so cool. I thought it was like you go outside and walk and she has things. Oh, that's so neat. It's all indoors. That's very cool. Awesome. Ladies, leave your email address and I'll I'll send you guys a video for, and you have my card, my information's on the